Thank you, Dwayne. Good morning. Hope everyone had a great holiday yesterday. And welcome to our September 5th meeting. Appreciate everyone being here. As always, if you would take just a second or two and turn your phone on silent, would be well appreciated. And as always, we'll start off with a word of prayer. We're going to ask Mr. Binky to come up and say a prayer, followed by Will with the pledge. So we all stand, please. Binky, please.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all your many blessings. We just pray that you will be with us now as this board meets to consider a lot of things that are important to us, the citizens of Madison County. Give them the wisdom and the courage to make decisions that are for the betterment of our community and for, our country. We just thank you for their leadership and pray that you will be with us and as those who are here to speak today. Give us the strength to make our points and just thank you so much for blessing us the way that you bless us. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Will?
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Minky, for saying the prayer, and Will for leading the pledge. Thank you. Okay, we're going to get started with our first item this morning. Mr. Ronnie Lott.
Yes, Mr. President, Board, you should have in front of you the August 21st board minutes. I would ask if there are no changes, the board please approve said minutes.
Are there any changes? If not, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion Supervisor Jones. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second Supervisor Baxter. Any questions? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
All
Mr. President.
opposed? Next is concerned citizens, but I would like to kind of change the order up a little bit and bring Anita up, because I know today you got a lot on your plate today. So if you would come up and tell us what you would like for the board to know.
Okay, well, actually, Spence is here. He's going to speak with us, but good morning.
Morning.
Y'all doing
Morning.
okay? Good.
Good morning. Hope y'all had a good Labor Day weekend.
Spencer, if you would, give us your name
Sure.
and address, please, for the record.
Spence Flatguard. I live at 214 Silas Trace in Ridgeland, and I'm the lawyer for Election Commission. And was getting my coffee this morning and forgot my sport coat, so I apologize. Anyway, y'all wanted me to give you a report on the primary election and kind of look ahead to the general, so I'm glad to do that and answer any questions. I always remind people the primary elections are the parties' elections, right? The Democrat Party and the Republican Party. So it's their election to nominate their candidates for office for the general election. The Election Commission in most counties, offers to help, be of assistance, that type of thing. And we did this time. The Election Commission offered both parties to run their elections, basically, which a lot of times happens in larger counties in particular. It's a big operation. Election commissioners do this every day. And I've done this at the city level in Ridgeland as a volunteer, and I just turn it over to the municipal commission because it's just easier that way.
Right.
And so we offered that to both parties, and it's up to them whether to accept that or not. The Republicans wanted that, so the election commission ran the Republican primary, hired poll workers, and did all that. And the Democrats, is their prerogative, they didn't want to do that, so that was fine. The election commission still helped. There's so many common things you have to do. You have to get the voting equipment to the polls, stuff supply bags and that type of thing. So a lot of the work is done anyway by the election commission. So the primary elections happened and went well. Both parties' chairmen afterwards, reached out to me and said they felt like they went pretty well. It went really well. I shouldn't say pretty well. They were happy with them, both the Republican and Democrat chairs. So we had the primary elections. And the Democrats had a runoff in a House race, as y'all know. I think, was it 5 or 6? 5 boxes, and that was uneventful, and that happened at the end of the month. So Anita and Teresa Speaks really work hard. They're open Saturday mornings, absentee ballots, working with all the voters, and really put in extra time. So thank you, Anita and thank Teresa for us. So now we're on to the general election. As y'all know, in November, and all the county offices are on the ballot, and the Election Commission will run that, use a lot of the same poll workers. And every election, they do their best. And if there's ever things that come up, let us know. We're always looking to debrief and make every election better. And it's about the voters and for them to have the best experience they can have. So as you hear of things, just pass them on to me or the Election Commission, in your district. And then, as a reminder, there's always elections going on and always campaigns, but in a presidential year, the primary is really early. So in 2024, it'll be in March, early March. So we're pretty much going to move from the general to the presidential, and so we'll gear up for that. I do think, I get asked sometimes, is it better for the parties to contract the Election Commission? As you can probably tell from my comments, I think it is better. I think the elections end up being cheaper for the taxpayer. I think the poll workers are better trained and qualified, frankly. But it's up to the parties. That's however they want to do it. We stand ready to help them. And then next November, of 2024, we'll have another presidential. And you'll remember the Trump-Biden race, the turnout was massive. And there were a couple boxes that are okay for most elections, but that are probably a little too small for a massive presidential turnout. So the Election Commission will give you all some recommendations to consider for a couple boxes so that the voters don't have to minimize their standing in line. And there's a couple boxes out in the county where, a church is on a 2-lane road and they're not really set up for a lot of parking, and we want a safe situation for the voters. So we'll give you some recommendations for next year. But this fall, everything's in place. Where everybody voted for the primary, they can vote for the general. So the Election Commission appreciates y'all. You always help with all the latest equipment they need, and I think it helps the voters. It's better all the time. So do y'all have any questions for the Election Commission or any comments?
Spence, if I heard you correctly, the party runs the primary. The party, Republican and Democrat, runs the primary, and the general is the election commissioners.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
That's
So
right.
Come November, it'd be election commissioners will run the election in November.
That's right. It's the county's election, so the election commissioners will run it, and both parties will have their nominees on the ballot, and should be a good turnout.
And so everything ran smooth in the primary and the runoffs, if I'm hearing you correct. this
Yes, sir.
past-
Both. And my report card is really the county chairman. And I didn't solicit it. They reached out to me and said that they
Right.
were happy with how their primaries went. So if the chairman of both parties were happy with it, I'm happy with it.
And we had a contract with the Republican Party. The election commissioners had a contract with the Republican Party, but they did not with the Democrat Party.
Yes, sir. We have made the same offer to both parties, and
Okay.
it's each party's prerogative to enter an agreement or not.
Okay. Are there other questions? We appreciate you coming and giving us an update, and we did hear, I think, very clear that the polling places are going to be the same
Yes,
as
sir.
it was this last primary as it is in November. And then maybe first of next year or sometime or other, y'all are going to look at some of the polling precincts and possibly bring something back to the board a little bit later on next year.
Yes, sir. So this is the home stretch, 60 days till the general, and so your election commissioners are working hard. Everybody, including y'all, should feel free to talk with them. And we're always looking for new poll workers, too. If anybody's interested in serving the county in that way, that's good. And then we'll roll right into the presidential election year. So it's busy season for us, but your election commissioners are there to serve, and everyone, please feel free to reach out to them.
Okay.
Spence, how many split precincts do we have in the county?
I always answer that by saying too many. One split precinct is too many, and I know we can't help it. I don't know the answer to that. I'll find out.
Any way to help alleviate some of that confusion from those split precincts and ballots? And is there any way to consolidate some of them?
I think so, and so we'd love to work with y'all on that. Because you're right, you hit the nail on the head. That's where the confusion comes in. So you come into a poll, and pretty much a volunteer poll worker is there working a 14-hour day, and if you got 3 different ballots to pass out, that's where the problem happens. And you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube once the wrong ballot gets out. So that's why I always, you can't help but have some split precincts, but I always say, you know, even one's too many, because that's where the challenge is. So we'd love to work with you on that, and also work with you on making sure that one box doesn't have, it is set up to handle massive turnout. We don't want somebody waiting in line an hour to vote, and we want to have a safe place to park. So thank you. I'll follow up with you.
But you know, you're talking about split precincts, you're gonna always have those.
Yes.
Because you have too many different lines.
Yeah.
Whether it's constables, whether it's election commissioners, supervisors, judges.
That's right. You're always going to have them, and we just try to work with y'all to have as few as
right.
possible. So,
That's right.
Yeah.
38 out of 43.
Okay. Clerk Ray tells me,
It's 38 out of 43
Okay.
precincts have split.
38 out of 43.
Yeah. Okay. Other comments? Thank you, Spence.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all for coming up.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Okay, we're going to move back to concerned citizens. At this point, we have one on the agenda, which is Mary Johnson. Ms. Mary Johnson, if not, Greg, do you have some on the agenda?
I do. I've got a few that have signed in.
Okay.
Start with Richard Bolware.
Richard,
Yes, sir.
please come up.
Yes, sir.
State your name and address in 2 minutes, please.
Richard Bolware, 133 Anderson Station Road, Flora, Mississippi. Thank you for letting me speak. I got 2 minutes. 30 years ago, me and my wife moved to Madison County with a 2-year-old. I love Madison County, don't you? I love Madison County. Glad to be a part of the county. So I speak today for over 163 people that have burnt my phone up the last 2 days. There's 2 parcels of land sold recently near church. Damascus Baptist Church is concerned. The families that live off Livingston, Vernon, Stokes, Cedar Hill Road are the areas off Highway 22. We understand this was on C2 commercial back in 1963. Most of us, if not all of us, had no idea this property was C2 commercial land. There were homes there that have been there for decades. So we're here to say that we have a lot of concern about what type of C2 development will go on this property. We're in the process of forming a historic preservation overlay district, just like the Mansdale-Livingston Heritage Area. We want to call this the Anderson-Livingston Heritage Preservation District Overlay. We are not here, the Bible says unity brings God's blessings. We're not here to be in disharmony or disunity or start a fight over something. We want to work together, and we want to participate in the planning and zoning of this area and all of that area. Highway 22 is a beautiful historic site, highway. We want to be involved. So we're here as concerned citizens. We recognize commercial development and other developments coming. It's growing. I'm glad Madison's growing. I'm glad we have this problem. People want to live in Madison, but we want to protect our children and grandchildren. Somebody said, well, why didn't you guys buy the land if you wanted to protect the area? Well, most of us put the money in our homes and our land. My granddaughter's 3. She has a trail through the woods to my house, to my back door. And she can leave my son's house and walk through the woods safely to my house. So that's where we're at. We're concerned. Do you have anything to add to this?
I do. I don't speak as,
Ma'am?
there is no developer yet, it's just the land was sold. We know that Paul Hopper has bought one section right beside the church. And
Ma'am,
then
would you state your name and your
Vanessa
address as well?
Abels, 210 Stokes Road, Flora, Mississippi. I've lived there for 15 years. The area, I think it's like almost 7 acres that was purchased by, I can't pronounce his name, but he owns a service station on Gluckstadt Road. So we are concerned, we don't know, we haven't spoken to this man yet. We're just concerned that since he owns a service station and it's zone C2, that we may get a service station out there.
And right next to the church.
and right next to the church. And we're not, we understand, we totally understand C2 and that growth is coming. And we're not big landowners, but our investment is in our homes. I mean, we don't have a lot of money, but what we have is in our homes that my husband and I lived out there for 15 years. And we don't want some ugly commercial building coming in and hurting our property value. So we're just asking that we can start this overlay committee and that we can work with everybody. Everybody can work together and we can be transparent with everybody. We're not trying to play hardball by no means, but we just want, our little area to stay nice.
Okay.
Thank y'all for listening.
Thank y'all.
We appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Greg?
Next up will be Cherry T. Deddens.
Sherry? Come up, state your name, address, and 2 minutes, please.
Cherry T. Deddens, 220 Persimmon Lane, which runs off of Highway 22. And Carl Banks knows that for 26 years we've been trying to preserve the country living atmosphere that we have out there in Madison County. I know you all don't think we can preserve it, but we can. We pay high taxes to preserve it. I would like for you all to look into this situation about a convenience store or whatever plans they have on going from Stokes Road to Damascus Church. I want to know if there is an error in zoning, we need to know about it. If there is a convenience store going there and they need more land to have enough land for a convenience store, we need to know that. What we're trying to do is to preserve the residential areas around this area. That is a dangerous intersection. First off, we need to have MDOT do a study on whether or not they can have egress and ingress there. Secondly, we need to find out if, in fact, the zoning that was done in 1963 is correct on the tax maps. And I think there's some question to that. And that's all I have to say, but I would love for us to have a little general store there, but not a huge convenience store that would create a lot of traffic problems in that area. So I'd like for y'all to see about the zoning, whether it's legal, and then also about whether or not you want to put something like that in the middle of a residential area. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. And the last, the first two there, talking about item 46, that's on our agenda for the day. I think that's the item they're talking about, referred to. Yeah. Greg?
Mickey Watkins.
Mickey, come up and please state your name and address, please.
Good morning. My name's Mickey Watkins. I live at 102 Burn Cove in Madison, in Lake Caroline. I'm going to be brief. I know y'all are tired of seeing me every meeting, but I'll come back to every meeting I have to. At the August 7th meeting, I submitted this document requesting documentation from planning and zoning, whoever that was the appropriate party in Madison County, to provide me documentation that said that the piece of property in question where the Stribling Marketplace is going to be built was indeed Zone C2. As of this date, the only information I have received is the documentation that the board asked Mr. Clark, who I don't think is here today or I've seen, y'all let him give me his file. I took the file, which he told me was from the circuit clerk's office, not the chancery clerk or planning and zoning as requested in my document. So I took that and did it. I have left a message for Mr. Clark because there is a map in that document that I would like to secure and go have commercially printed. It's a really big map that I couldn't do on my copy machine. So I'm here requesting yet again that if there's any documents in the Chancery Clerk's office, zoning and planning, or whatever, that validates that the property in question for the Stribling Marketplace is indeed C2, I'm requesting that information. And that's all I've got to say today.
Yeah, Mr. Clark's not here today. Scott?
Yes, sir.
If you would, just follow up with Andy and see what kind of,
I will. He's in court today, and Mr. Watkins, I do have a copy of that map. I'll be glad to give you.
Give it to,
okay. Anyone else, any other comments? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Mickey. If you will, just follow with Scott and he'll work with you.
All right, I've got two that have signed in related to item 31 on the agenda, the tax exemption request for Madison Methodist Church. We can either wait until item 31 or do it now. Obviously, your decision there.
Tell them come on up if they
Okay,
like.
that would be Sammy, I think that says Barmer, and Brian Smith. Nailed it.
Yeah, my name is Sammy Varmer, and I live at 315 Avalon Way in
Brian Smith. I live at 240 Hickory Glen, Madison.
Okay,
And we are here on behalf of Madison Methodist Church. We are requesting an exemption for 10 parcels of property that have been transferred from the former entity that controlled the property, which was Madison United Methodist Church. Our church went through, I don't know if any of y'all are aware of it, but a disaffiliation process where our church left the United Methodist Church and joined the Global Methodist Church. As part of that process, we had to create a new nonprofit corporation and transfer all of the property from the old nonprofit to the new nonprofit. So all of the property that is being transferred was previously tax-exempt property, and we are requesting tax-exempt status for the new entity after the transfer of that property.
okay. Mike, since we own that, I did not know, what they was coming up for, but item 31, have you looked at that item?
Yes, this is probably the most complete tax exemption application I've seen.
Right.
It was very well put together, and everything is there. So I'd recommend that they receive it.
Okay, that's where we're headed. Motion by Supervisor Jones. Do we have a second?
second.
Second, Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Thank y'all, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bet. Again, we'll back up and and start again. Any other?
One more.
Okay.
Toby Trowbridge.
Okay, Mr. Trowbridge, come on up, please.
Good morning. My name's Toby.
Good morning.
Somebody say something? Okay. Toby Trowbridge, live in Dinsmore subdivision in Ridgeland, formerly of Cedar Hill Road from 1994 to 2019, I believe. Gentlemen, first thing is thank you all for taking care of me while I served in office for 12 years. And thank you for what y'all have done for the Sheriff's Department since then. I know it's a hard job, but y'all have done it for the Madison County people. And I don't know how to talk to y'all other than being friends with y'all, because I don't work for Madison County anymore, and I know y'all personally. Supervisor Steen, you and I have talked about politics.
All time.
All the time. I don't want in politics. I'm not running for politics. I told y'all when Timmy Pickett retired up here, the only thing I'd run for would be the state line when it comes time. So, get that. Supervisor Banks, you were my supervisor when I moved to Madison County, or in '79 at Lake Cavalier. When I moved to Cedar Hill Road in 1994, you were my supervisor. I've always supported you, will continue to support you no matter who running against you. I think you have an opponent now.
Right.
Well, I'm still a supporter of yours.
Thank you.
You have taken care of me ever since I was sheriff and before I was sheriff. Every time something needs done in that area, you take care of it, and I appreciate that. So make it clear that Carl Banks is my supervisor.
Thank you very much, Sheriff.
Supervisor Griffin, you and I talked before I became sheriff, and you wanted me to help a man out on the sheriff's department. I don't know if you even remember that. And I took care of him and put him in investigations. He wasn't real happy with that and everything, and I can understand being an investigator. I wouldn't make it either. He wouldn't enjoy it. He was lieutenant, well-deserved lieutenant on the sheriff's department, and you couldn't ask for a better choice than to help me make, and I appreciate it. And I just want to let you know that as men and friends and everything, this is something dear to our hearts out there. And I think all we're trying to ask is let's slow it down, look at this overlay, and make sure we're getting what the whole community can live with. All the people up here have spent not hundreds of thousands, but millions of dollars out there on the west side of the county. It's the fastest growing part of the county I know of. Although I was up in Supervisor Griffin's district a couple of months ago, it's coming on big up there with some big places and everything.
Get some more.
I was in Yazoo County helping the boy that's running for sheriff up there about a few weeks ago. They're having to skip Madison County and go to young couples that go to Yazoo County because they're trying to move to Madison County, but we're filling it up. They're having to move on. So y'all are doing a great job keeping things together, and I appreciate it. But I ask you, let's slow down and take a look at this. Y'all are making, big money's coming into this county. And you don't want the folks that have been with y'all since the 90s and the 2000s and all that to have to diminish their property value. With that goes, so does the income to the county. And I'm just asking, please give us a chance to get involved with this and make sure the right stuff gets put out that way, no matter what it is. Any questions?
No, but very good and very well taken.
Thank you.
We all want our property values to continue to grow. You're right.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Toby. Sure. Appreciate it.
All right.
Anyone else?
No, sir.
Okay, Greg, I see you on the, next on the agenda then. Public hearing?
Yes, sir.
We need to go in the public hearing at this point. Do I have a motion to go to the public hearing? Got a motion, Supervisor Jones.
Second.
Second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Greg?
All right, now that we are in a public hearing, this is the budget hearing that we are required by statute to have. As most of y'all know, because you've seen the budget, this year's budget is the product of a lot of hard work by a lot of different people. We held budget hearings back late July, I believe, just to get department heads and other folks in here to tell y'all what they need and what they want. Obviously, there is a distinction between the two. Ultimately, this year, we're looking at, the advertisement says $198 million total under the control of this board. That was before we had $5 million for the former Freds. So we are over $200 million this year for what I believe to be the first time in this county's history. Of that over $200 million, $66 million is millage. There are no new taxes. There's been no tax increase outside of the Southwest Madison County Fire Protection District. And that was a request that was asked for by their board so that they could staff full-time to hopefully both lower or help their fire rating and provide quicker response time to emergencies. So that there are no tax increases from this board.
That's paid out there.
Their board, yes. And that is paid entirely by folks that live within that district. So the rest of the county, no tax increases. There has been some shifts in the millage. Community college got an extra $250,000. Debt service dropped a little bit, the millage there to fund that. So there has been some shifts in the millage, but the total millage residents of Madison County pay remains the same, and has for years, to the best of my knowledge, at least as far back as 18. So the county millage is 38.13 and has remained such. No increases from this board. The things that we're getting from the money that are different from last year, there are some slight raises for employees. outside of the sheriff's office. So if the sheriff's office is watching, they are continuing the second part of the plan that was put in place last year, which is based on longevity. The longer you stay at the Madison County Sheriff's Office, the more money you will make. And that rewards longevity, which is something that the sheriff feels is very important, and I believe this board agrees. If you do not work at the sheriff's office and you make less than $50,000 a year, there's a 5% raise for you. There is a 3% raise if you make more than $50,000. Again, that excludes the sheriff's office. They're keeping their longevity plan. The total cost of the raises outside of the sheriff's office is about $400,000. There's been a $4 million increase in the millage take this year over last year. Last year, your millage, same millage, was about $62 million. This year, it's $66. So the growth of the county is obviously reflected in the millage. That's how this process works. The circuit court is the other area that kind of saw an increase, and that is because of an additional public defender that is budgeted. Still got to be voted on by this board, but it is budgeted. And benefits for those public defenders. They're also included in the budget, but subject to vote by this board. So we can always take that money and move it somewhere else. Those are the two areas that saw the sharpest increase. And obviously the PERS increase with 2% PERS hike coming July 1 of next year. That's something we don't have a choice on. That's mandatory. The state said we have to pay it, so we have to pay it. There's not really an option there. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If not, this would be the time for any of the public who wishes to speak about the budget, because that is kind of the function of the public hearing, is to give citizens and residents an opportunity to voice their opinion.
Are there questions or comments from the board first? You know, Greg, I would say that thank you for helping putting this budget together, because it's always a challenge, even though you have this amount of money, but there's always a challenge because a lot of it is passed through. You know, a lot of it is already committed because of state law, mandatory, and a lot of it just passed through to make the things work in Madison County. And so it's always a challenge, because everybody's wanting this and wanting that. But I think, again, this year we've done an excellent job, you know, with our pay raises, because inflation is very, very high, and with all of our employees. You mentioned our sheriff department, which, you know, we already had them on a pay scale, and they chose to stay there, you know, with the pay scale that they currently have, and so, which is very good. It's a very good pay scale, and they're pleased with it, and we are as well. But thank you. But before that, anyone in the public would like to comment?
There is one thing I would like to add, if you'll humor me for just a second, Mr. President, and that would be just because you hear $66 million, that's not all one pot of money. So folks will hear $66 million, but well, they can spend $66 million on roads. Not how the process works in governmental accounting or the tax levies. There is the levy sheet there that kind of lays out what each of those pots of money is for. So the entire $66 million is all of the pots, rather than, well, y'all just spend $66 million on the roads. It doesn't work that way based on state law. So that was just something I felt kind of needed to be clarified. Yeah.
Yeah, the sheet is very helpful that you put out there on line item 4. You know, people can go to that and really see where the money is being allocated.
Sure.
Very well. No other comments? Do we need to come out of the public hearing at this point?
Yes, sir.
We do. Do I have a motion to come out of public hearing? Got a motion, Supervisor Jones. Do I have a second? Second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. So the first step we would need to take is to approve the
acknowledge the hearing notice, just so it's in the minutes that it was published, and we've complied with the. Thank you.
Second.
Got a motion by Supervisor Jones, second Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed.
All right. Next would be to adopt the fiscal year 2024 tax levy.
Okay. Do I have a motion from Supervisor Banks?
Second.
second by Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed.
All
Thank
right.
you, Greg.
One last thing here, to adopt the fiscal year 2024 budget, now that we have a levy to figure out how much money we have coming
Okay.
in.
Do I have a motion to adopt the budget? Got a motion Supervisor Jones, second Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. And this starts, our fiscal year starts October 1.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And one final step would be authorization to publish the summary budget as required by state law.
Move to publish.
Got a motion Supervisor Banks, second Supervisor Jones. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Greg. A lot of steps, but it's done right.
Hopefully. Yes, sir.
Okay, moving on to consent items. Anyone like to remove any of the items on the consent? If not, do I have a motion?
Move.
Got a motion by Supervisor Jones, second Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. All right, we've already taken care of item 31, which is the Methodist Church. Ms. Phillips, our HR Director.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
I just want to take a few minutes to come before you all, just as a reminder to you all and to maybe some of the employees that I have not been able to reach because I have been sending out mass email. But this coming Friday at 10:30, from 10:30 to 1 o'clock, on the west side of the courthouse, we will be holding a health fair. And this will be the first one of this magnitude that we have had. So, first of all, I want to personally invite each and every one of you all sitting here today to please come out and see what we have in store for the employees. Myself, along with the Assistant HR Director and some of the other members of the administrative staff, we have worked very hard to try to put this on. We want to try to do something to, you can't say thank you enough to people for what they do, but just as a small token and a small way just to say thank you to the employees for what they do for the county. Some of the service we will be providing, there will be vendors on to provide blood pressure check, glucose, cholesterol. There will be vendors on site that will be performing, that will be administering the flu shots and the COVID vaccination. We will also have vendors on site that will be giving out educational material as it relates to mental health, stress, weight loss. And we will also have vendors on site about from banking institution, because we find that there's a need for our county employees. So again, I come before you just as a reminder and to invite each and every one of you all out personally, and just to say thank you for everything that you do.
And this is going to be,
I'm sorry.
this will be held outside?
This will be, yes, it will be outside on the west side of the square, and it will be from 10:30 until 1.
Okay, great.
And it is at no additional cost to the Board of Supervisors. Thank you, Greg.
That COVID vaccination, it's gonna be the most recent one?
It should, yes, I've asked for it should be the most recent one. That's the one I asked for, and I was told that that's what I would have.
It should be one coming out this month now. Is it gonna be
Yeah, for September.
September?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I requested, and I was told that we would have that one.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Loretta.
Thank you.
All right, Keisha?
Good morning, board members.
Morning.
I bring to you item number 33, award our construction service term bids. Attached are, as you see on your laptops, attached are copies of the recently opened construction service term bids and spreadsheet tabulations. APAC Mississippi, AJ Construction, Ag Camp, and Dickerson and Bowman submitted electronic and sealed bids to indicate that they were interested in bidding on our construction services term bids for the period of October 1, 2023, and through September 30 of 2024. I recommend that the board take the following actions: acknowledge all bids received.
To have a motion to
Motion to
acknowledge the
acknowledge.
bids, got a motion Supervisor Griffith, I'll second. Discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
I also ask and recommend that the board award the construction service term bids presented.
I got a question. Greg, did you go through these bids?
I did. I looked through them. The calculations haven't changed.
The way they were done was all legit? Oh, okay.
Second.
What motion you was looking for?
Award
To
bids.
award the construction service term bids.
Move.
Got a motion Supervisor Banks, second Supervisor Griffith. Discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed.
Okay. I bring your attention to award the commodity term bids, which is number 34. Attach our copies of recently opened commodity term bids and spreadsheet tabulations. I also recommend that the board take the following actions to acknowledge all bids received for the commodity term bids.
Motion.
Got a motion Supervisor Griffith, I'll
Second.
second. Discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed.
And I also ask that and recommend that the board take actions on award the commodity term bids.
Got a motion Supervisor Jones, do I have a second?
Second.
Second Supervisor Banks, discussion, all in favor? Aye. All opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keisha. Thank you. We have taken care of item 35, so we're,
Question. Yeah.
Excuse me. I also wanted to, I forgot to let you all know that we will be providing lunch at the health fair also.
great,
Thank you.
I have a question on the bids. Forgot this.
okay.
We awarded these bids for asphalt.
Right.
And do we have a backup if we can't get, say, APAC does not have asphalt, can they go?
Can't get to us.
Did I read in there that there was a
There are
backup?
alternate bids.
Yeah,
We
there
do
are.
have alternates in there, just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I thought I read in there, but good question. Okay, moving to item 36. Okay. Our tax collector, it's time to give another update. So, Stephanie, if you would, please come up, you and Kay, and we'll start with Stephanie or Kay, or,
Start with Kay.
okay, come on, Kay.
My name is Kay Pace. I'm tax collector for the Madison County, Mississippi, and we appreciate this time before the board. Before Stephanie begins to speak, I would like to tell you that there have been some things that she's found that will make the record keeping for Madison County much easier and quicker. We need that. And so we have a lot of things in process, and I would like for you to know that. Also,
If you could, speak a little closer to the mic, please.
as your tax collector, I would like for you to know that there were some assumptions and prematurely things that were taken by this board as funds missing in my office. That's incorrect. There have never been any funds missing in my office. There's never been anything that we cannot tell the public. That's why I asked Stephanie Smith, a forensic CPA, to come into my office, and I gave her access to everything she needs.
Okay, Stephanie,
Thank you.
please give us an update.
I will. When I was engaged by the Board of Supervisors, it was as a result of the audit findings of the September 30th, 2021 audit, which showed a shortfall of around $600,000. So my charge was to find the shortfall and look at and I said at the time that I was going to look at other processes and procedures too. I'm going to pass something out to you that I've prepared and stamped draft. It is not a report, it's done like a memo because, oh, I'm sorry, I have two. Okay. It's done as a memo
Thank
to
you,
try
ma'am.
and explain to the board what I have found so far and explain how it occurred. So if you'll just indulge me for a minute, I'm going to try and walk through this with you.
If you would, just wait 1 second until she hands this
Surely
paper
will.
out, please.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Stephanie?
The cities of Madison and Ridgeland have an interlocal agreement with the county of Madison on ad valorem tax settlements. And the way this works is the agreement provides that the county is going to get the first $75,000 of these ad valorem settlements in the fiscal year, and then the cities of Madison and Ridgeland get the excess. Going as far back as the fiscal year that ended in 2018, there was no mechanism in place to cut those commissions off to the county at $75,000. So that the tax collector's office was paying these ad valorem commissions to the county. Sometime, usually January or February, the person responsible for this issue, and I'm not certain who that is because she's no longer an employee there, would look at those and say, oh, we've hit the cap, we owe the city of Ridgeland this money and we owe the city of Madison this money. And they would settle what they called excess commission. The problem with that is that this money, this ad valorem money received, was settled twice. It went to the county, in October, November, December, and then when they realized they were over the $75,000 cap, the tax collector's office just wrote a check to the cities for the amounts that should have gone to them. It should have gone to them. It should not have gone to the county of Madison. So that's created the shortfall. When I started this process, I said, it's revenue neutral. Money in should be money out. Well, what we had is money in and money out twice. If you'll look at this document I have in front of you, it will show that the excess commission that went to Madison County for these 4 years that I've showed you was $618,000. And then, months later, it was properly paid to the cities of Madison and Ridgeland, but it was never reimbursed by the county because the county wasn't aware. I mean, there was no notification the county needed to give the money back. Yes, ma'am? Pardon? The city of Flora has one of these agreements, but they have never hit the maximum. And the city of Gluckstadt has one, but they've never hit the maximum.
What about the city of Canton?
I'm investigating on the city of Canton. I think there may be one, but I have not seen it, and it just requires a little more searching. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
But anyway, these monies were dispersed to the cities properly. Now, this error was discovered after the audit that produced the shortfall, and Ms. Pace's office went back and found this problem in 2021 and 22 and requested reimbursement from Madison County and did receive it. So these last two numbers on my schedule have been reimbursed, but it was in 2023. Now, what I'd like to say is that, that does point to the $600,000 shortfall. Is that just good fortune that I landed on that number? I don't know. I have looked at a lot of things in the office, but there are, I know, at least 4 areas I'd like to dig a little deeper into. Refunds to taxpayers. The tax sale, which I don't think there's much to dig there, but it's a once-a-year thing, and I want to look at it a little bit. Voided transactions through the Marvin credit card system. And then there's an issue with the bank reconciliation that just needs to kind of be walked through with their personnel. So I come to you today and say, I can stop here, I can issue a formal report, or I can go a little further, and that's really up to you and your wishes.
Comments from the board? Or, yeah, don't disagree with that either, but are there any comments that, with the paper that she handed out to us?
Right.
Yeah, I want to make sure I understand, though, the shortfall, and you keep saying the shortfall there, that it come out, the money came out and went to the cities.
Well, no, it went originally to the county.
To the county. When it should have gone to the cities?
Anything over $75,000 should have gone to the cities.
Okay, and that didn't happen at that time?
That's correct.
And so basically, a little bit later on, we found the
Yes.
mistake.
Several years went by before the mistake was found.
Okay, and so then the tax collector came back and sent it to the cities, the right portion, the right amount
Correct.
to the cities.
Correct.
And you're going back to 2018, correct?
Yes.
And so from 2018 to the day, everything is good then, as far as money's going to the cities?
No. No. Well, yes, as far as money going to the city,
Yeah,
the
that's
cities are
right.
whole. I'm sorry.
Yeah, for the
The
money
cities
going
have
to
been
the
made whole,
cities.
right.
So there's no money owed to Ridgeland or Madison
That
or
is correct.
Flora, and you're still looking at Kenton
Or to Gluckstadt. I'm still looking at Canton.
or Gluckstadt. I think Gluckstadt just come online.
Yeah, they did.
So, yeah, or Gluckstadt either. So at this point, we're okay as far as money going to the cities. They've received the right amount,
That's correct.
okay?
What safeguards could we put in effect to make sure this doesn't happen again?
There's been a software safeguard put in place to have a stopgap as to the amount of ad valorem that can go to Madison County. Or to the other, in relation to all the interlocal agreements. And it was put in place in early 2013. So it will not happen again.
Wait, the software was put in effect in 2013?
The change to the software just happened, yes. No, oh, I'm sorry, 2023.
I was fixing
I'm
to
so
say,
sorry.
wait Thank you. Thank you.
All right, with that being said, that you've gone to 2018, do you think there's a need to look back further?
Possibly.
And that's what you're asking the board today?
Well,
One of the things.
Among other things, I'm saying I could go back further and see how far back this problem goes. I also could look at some other other issues that I just don't feel 100% comfortable with.
Yeah, I think this board would want you to do that.
Okay.
But as far as going back, what does the law recommend?
3 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's a statute of limitations on that. I don't know. I will. I'll be happy to.
Yeah, that's good. And the reasoning is that we want to make sure that everything is fair between the county and the cities. The city has received their monies,
Absolutely.
but we also want to make sure the county has received the monies that they, need to have as well. We just want it fair.
I understand.
And
And I know with the change in administration that's coming up, you probably want to just feel good about that as well.
That's right. And talking about that, I know we'll have a new tax collector come January, and I'm not sure whether that person needs just to sit in and for discussion or this or not. I'm gonna leave that up between you two.
Okay.
On that. But I know he'll come in on January 1, and it's always good to communicate, and for that person to know, hey, this is what has happened, you know, and this is what is going on and taking place. But I'll leave that up between you two, you know, on that. So what is the wishes of the board? Because you're asking, repeat again exactly what you're asking.
I'm
that
asking
we
if you
can
would
do.
like me to stop at this point and issue a report saying, these are my findings, or should I go ahead and look, well, these are my findings plus some other non-monetary but control issues? Or can I go further and investigate those areas I mentioned?
Would you look at another 30 days or what?
I would think that would certainly be adequate.
Okay, what do you think?
I think I would like her to go through everything that she needs to go through, which includes refunds to the public. I want them to know that we're correct with what we've done. I'm not saying you cannot make a mistake, but we try to correct the mistakes that we make and keep everything fair and above board.
Yeah.
Yeah, my motion is authorize another 30 days.
Second.
Got a motion by Supervisor Griffin, and I think I heard Supervisor Jones, or, you know, that, because we do want to make sure it's correct. All of us do.
Yeah, we want to find out about Canton too. Make sure you're looking at that one.
Absolutely. What I hear from you is you want me to check on the Canton interlocal agreement, which is on my list, and also look at that statute of limitations, how far back those things run.
That's right.
I will do that.
Okay. We got a motion, got a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you for the upkeep.
Thank you.
All right.
Update, okay?
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All righty. Kay, you still up? Okay, you have item 37.
About void tax sale. Okay, we need that void tax sale in place because you have an exemption that you, a tax exemption that you approved for Sunnybrook, and there was 2 tax sales in place. The first one was taken care of, but you've got another one that's got to be taken care of before the exemption is legal. And so I'd like for this tax sale to be approved and avoid tax sales, and get all of that cleared up so that the exemption is in good stead.
Mike, I see this is the year 2022.
Yes.
2020 or 2021.
I recommend this be voided because the tax sale is not matured. So it's 2022, it's 2 years before it's matured. So it's eligible to be voided. But also, and coincidentally, this parcel, you exempted already in March of this year. So it's already exempt, and so it should be voided.
Okay. Got a motion, Supervisor Griffin. Do I have a second? Second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Thank you, Kay.
Thank you.
I think we're up for Tim.
Good morning.
Good morning.
At the last board meeting, the board asked me to engage the services of a geotechnical engineering firm to do a pavement evaluation on Stribling Road between DeWeese and Catlett. So today I bring you an agreement with Terracon to perform a pavement evaluation of that section of road for a fee not to exceed $14,000.
Move.
Got a motion, Supervisor Banks. Do I have a second? Second. Second, Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right. Next item I have is a request to authorize me to advertise, or authorize the board to advertise the Natural Resources Conservation Service Emergency Watershed Protection Program project along East Sim Street in Madison County.
Motion.
Got a motion, Supervisor Griffin. Second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Next item I have is a request to advertise for engineering services for preliminary engineering and environmental services for a potential road project to connect Yandell Road to Gluckstadt Road.
Move.
Got a motion Supervisor Banks, do I have a second?
Second.
Second Supervisor Baxter. Discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Let me kind of elaborate on what this is, and correct me, Tim, if I'm wrong. This is one of the proposals that we've been looking at on how to move traffic off of Gluckstadt Road. We have been saying there were 3 different or more areas that the engineers were looking at to help move traffic forward. And with all the studies that being done, I think you're saying that the real hang-up is getting the traffic across 51 onto the interstate. That would relieve some of that backup on Yandell Road and 51 there. So what this will be looking at is maybe taking something over Highway 51, Tim?
Yes, sir. This is a long-term project. This is, right now, Yandell Road has several bottlenecks, if you will. One of the major bottlenecks is Highway 51. We could 8-lane Yandell Road, but once you get to Highway 51, you've got 1 lane northbound on Highway 51, you've got 1 lane southbound on Highway 51, and you've got 1 lane westbound on Weisenberger. So it doesn't matter how many lanes you get on Weisenberger, you get to a bottleneck there at 51, and something would have to be done at those locations in order to relieve that bottleneck. So what we're looking at is to possibly take Yandell Road and build a bridge over 51 with access via some ramps to Highway 51 so that you don't have to sit at Highway 51 at a traditional signal or interchange, so that you have direct access over to Gluckstadt Road, coming in over there near Wendy's and the ABC warehouse, come in directly to the Gluckstadt Road so that you can get to the interstate.
Okay, and this is the long-term suggestion.
Right. This is not, this is a major project.
Okay, and here I want to just go ahead and make a motion to authorize this here, and then we're gonna get to a short term.
I've got a motion to authorize
Advertising
advertise
for engineering services for this.
engineer services. Got a motion Supervisor Griffin. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right, now the short term, I think we're looking at possibly bringing on Jonathan to look at some parts of Yandell Road for the short term. We moving that traffic down Yandell Road.
Yes, sir. We've got some areas that we think we can do some short-term improvements to help traffic in the short term. What we would like to do is to get Kaiser Traffic Services on board to determine those areas and determine what we can do in the short term to help alleviate some of the bottlenecks that we have, such as the school, some other areas.
I think we talked about going all the way back to Bainbridge
Right.
subdivision.
Going a ways back, seeing what those areas are and what we can do to help alleviate some of that traffic while we are looking at the long-term solutions.
All right, that would be my motion to bring Jonathan Kaiser on board to, what he be doing, a study or what?
He would be doing a traffic impact study and
Traffic
making.
impact study.
Second.
Got a motion Supervisor Griffin, second by Supervisor Jones. And this would be for the entire road of Yandell Road.
It would be from Bainbridge back to Highway 51.
51.
I got a question, Tim.
Yes, sir.
What, another short-term project being, is it possible to go on and connect Gluckstadt to 51 before you build the bridge over 51? You know, where it stops, so just.
That whole area is wetlands.
Yeah.
In through there, so
Gotcha.
we can't really connect. It's all got to be a bridge, which
Okay.
is the reason we're kind of saying, well, let's bridge over it anyway, since we have to bridge that, we have to get over the railroad. You know, we want to get over 51. We don't want to connect 51 via a traditional intersection.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Other discussion? We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you, Tim.
All right.
All right. This next one is I guess it's just cleaning up some stuff. We had the Vision subdivision, Phase 1, the preliminary plat was approved by the board in 2008. And Mr. Klein is ready to build Phase 1B. And since it's been such a long time, we're asking that the board reapprove the preliminary plat so that it meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, because the time lapse has been so long since 2008 and now that it doesn't meet the requirements of building the infrastructure as it relates to the approving of the preliminary plat. So we ask that you reapprove the preliminary plat at this time.
All right, I'll make that motion.
I got a question. What street is
Hold
this
on one second. I got a motion from Supervisor Griffin. Do I have a second?
I got a second, a question.
Second, Supervisor Baxter.
What area I know this is in District 5, but what?
Road.
Okay, that's not anywhere close to Yandell, is it?
Oh, no, sir.
My question,
Good question.
we're approving the preliminary plat with updated infrastructure to meet the qualifications of today's.
Well, the preliminary plat, the requirements haven't changed. So it's the preliminary plat's the same as it was, but yes, the final plat will be, the requirements to today's will be what is required for the final plat.
And we're just approving a preliminary plat.
We're just reapproving the initial preliminary plat from 2008.
Got to upgrade for the final plat.
Right. He will have to upgrade for the final plat.
Okay, other discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Tim?
Next item is the permission to subcontract for Hemp Hill Construction to subcontract with Tremac Resteel, and an authorization for the board president to sign RSP number 5 for Reunion Parkway Phase 3.
Do I have a motion? Got a motion, Supervisor Jones. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Last item I have is on August 30th, we accepted bids from 3 companies on Reunion Parkway Phase 2. Hemp Hill Construction was the apparent low bidder at $31,961,800.
31 million.
Upon concurrence from MDOT, it's requested that the board president be authorized to sign the construction contract. And it is also requested that the board president to be authorized to sign the letter to MDOT requesting concurrence, and also the MDOT checklist to award the project to the low bidder.
Okay, do I have a motion? Motion.
Wait, you said 31,000.
31 million.
$31,961,800.
Got a motion, Supervisor
Different
Jones,
there,
second,
sorry.
Supervisor Baxter, and, this is about $2.5 billion over our projected dollar
Plus.
amount, and, which is, nowadays is really good, actually, I mean.
It's higher than we would like, but everything is.
That's right, and so, okay, have a motion on the floor, all in favor? Say aye. Supervisor Baxter made the second.
When will we have this project finished?
It's got around a 2-year, it's a working day contract, but we'll say around 2 years from the time we get started on it.
So when is that, a year? Kind of, sort of?
Late 2025, early 2026. Depends on weather, honestly.
It's about a 2-year project, as you
Right.
indicated. All 3 of the projects that we're
Thank you,
putting
Tim.
out, it's gonna be about 2 years.
Tim,
I got-
I got 2 questions for you.
Okay.
Is it concerning this?
No.
Okay, let's go ahead and pass this first. All right, all in favor, say aye. All opposed? Supervisor Baxter?
The intersection at Catlett and Stribling Road Extension, it was my impression we were down to one piece of right-of-way, because we've been at this for a year and a half. But now I understand that we may need 3 that haven't been closed on.
We're in the final phases of getting a release from the bank on two parcels. We should have those in the next week or two. And then we've got one that's in eminent domain.
In which we're going to go into executive session to discuss that one today.
How do we speed this process up?
That
a year and a half?
I don't have an answer for that one. That's a
long time. But
That's
we're going to go into
question
executive
for-
session for that. And
Okay, a second question. There was a accident that took place with a subcontractor. It's a AT&T line hanging too low at Devereaux, and the garbage truck snagged it, and it looked like a chainsaw went through the air and knocked the treetops out on people's cars and whatnot. And both contractors are saying they're not liable, and this man sitting there with trees on his car. I know the city issued the permits, but can y'all help this man? It's been a month with trees laying on his car.
I'll get with you after this and we'll talk about it. I'll do what I can.
any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to Mr. Weeks.
Mr. President, Board of Supervisors, good morning. First item I have is the planning and zoning draft minutes for August 10th, 2023.
I got a motion to acknowledge.
Second.
Got a second by Mr. Banks, a motion by Supervisor Jones. Discussion, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Next item is Berkshire Homes. This is a variance on rear setbacks located at Lot 1090, Herons Bay of Caroline, Supervisor District 2, approved by the Planning Commission 8/10 of 2023.
Motion.
Got a motion Supervisor Baxter. Do I have a second? Second Supervisor Banks. Discussion, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Next item is Paul Hopper, rezoning A1 to C2, located at 1534 Livingston Vernon Road. Property is a split parcel on zoning C2 and A1, Supervisor District 4, approved by the Planning Commission 8/10 of 23.
Mr. Banks?
This is a rezoning, so because the portion of it wasn't zoned.
Well, back in 1964, that's our first ordinance.
Yeah,
right
let's go with it.
Shows the property in the map as C2. And I was reading on here, it said, unless otherwise indicated, the district boundary lines are lot lines. The center lines of streets, alleys, or such lines extended or are the county boundary lines. Other lines within blocks are rear or side lot lines, or such lines extended or are property lines of large tracts. Now, this being a split parcel, the parcel is a single parcel. Now, I can't tell you what they did in 1964, but, that right there says that they, typically would have followed property lines. I can't tell you why they didn't do it on this one, but the land use map depicts C2, and the rest of that area right in there is C2 from the 1964 map.
Mr. Banks?
Yeah, I was going to let Mr. Hopper just got up. I was going to let him have a chance to address us first.
Yes, sir.
Paul?
Good morning. Thank y'all for letting me be here. My name's Paul Hopper. I live at 165 Sandy Lane in Flora, which is just a few miles south of this subject property. To kind of mimic Mr. Weeks' comments, where I'm coming from is the existing comprehensive land use map shows this 0.94 acres as C2. The zoning map shows it as A1. The land use map shows it as C2. Ironically, that's a section line that divides that. So I think it's a clerical error, and that's what I'm just asking for is for the board's approval to rezone it to C2 like the land use map shows.
Well, you know, I hear what you're saying, and I've heard others, they were concerned about what it was going to be used for, how close it was to the church. And I can't read the minds of the 1964 Board of Supervisors, but they did not zone it commercial. And I've been here for a little while, and when it comes down to rezoning, I've always, took the side of the majority of the constituents
Right.
out there of how you want it rezoned.
Right.
Do you want it rezoned?
Right.
And I'm not going to vote to rezone a piece of property that the people in the neighborhood don't want it rezoned.
Right. I understand that, and I respect that, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
As far as why do I want it rezoned, short of it mimicking the existing land use map?
Yeah.
Well, I recently purchased this property. It was marketed as C2. So I paid for it as if it was C2. I can promise you that. And this is not why we're here today, but I know a lot of people are here today because they think I'm putting a gas station in. That's the email that got circulated this weekend, that I'm a gas station developer, and I can look everybody square in the eyes and tell you that I will not be putting a gas station on this property, and I will not be putting a liquor store on this property. My initial intentions, for what it's worth, there was an existing home on this property, and what I wanted to do was put my real estate office, I wanted to put it in that existing home. I purchased the property. Probably should have done this the other way, but I brought my wife out there after I bought it, and she said, that ain't gonna work. So I tore the house down. So as far as what am I gonna do, I really don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that are C2 permissible. I think there's a lot of options out there. As far as a gas station goes, the adjoining property, they may be wanting to put a gas station, but I can promise you, I'm not putting a gas station. And I'm glad that some of the concerned citizens, and I get it, I understand. Again, I live right there. I live just off of Cedar Hill Road. So I'm in the real estate business. I mean, the last thing I'm gonna do is gonna do something that's gonna jeopardize anybody's property values. And I can mimic the hundreds of thousands and invest in millions. I can promise you. I just built a house there in the last year, and construction prices are higher now than they were in 1964, I can promise you. So that's where I'm at with it. I mean, it's a real estate investment for me. I have no intentions. I paid for it as C2 like the land use map shows, and that's honestly all I'm asking for is it to mimic that.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this until our next meeting, give Paul an opportunity to get with his neighbors and discuss it and see if they can come up with a working plan.
Got a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second with Supervisor Jones. And, one thing I would say, I haven't heard any reasoning or evidence of this is C2. Regardless what you come back in 2 weeks or a month, I haven't heard that you said it's possibly an error. We can't go on as possibly an error. I mean, we got to have, 100%, hey, this is what this is. If it's an error, we need to have proof that it's an error. If you're asking for just a plain rezoning, there's stipulations that you have to go through to prove that you meet the guidelines of rezoning. So, yeah, you may come back with some kind of agreement in 2 weeks, but I'm going to be looking at the law.
Right.
What our policy says.
That's right.
And so don't leave that part. Don't leave that part out, because that's where I'm going to be voting is,
right.
What does our policy and what does the law state?
Right. And I think that's what Mr. Weeks was referring to in the lot lines in his comment there, but I understand that.
He wasn't too convincing. So if you will, y'all there's some work, but I would encourage to get with the neighbors as well, as Supervisor Banks said.
Okay.
So, all right, we have a motion on the floor at the table. All in favor? Say aye. All opposed?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Scott?
All I have.
That's all you have?
Yes, sir.
Mike?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Item 47 is a new cooperative agreement between the county and the city of Gluckstadt to reimburse up to $49,530.40 to reimburse them to improve 3 new roads in the city of Gluckstadt. Now, and I recommend we approve this. Even though these are new roads, this is not new money.
Right.
Have to remind you that we did a agreement with Gluckstadt earlier for 4 roads. They finished those roads, and there was money left over.
Right.
And there's this amount of money. So we couldn't go on the old agreement because these are new roads. So this is a new agreement with Gluckstadt for the remaining money that you already gave them up to the amount that you gave them. So, unless there are any questions, and the deadline is the same, December 31st of this year. They have to improve these roads with the money you had given them for other roads that they've already finished.
Do I have a motion?
I got a motion.
Got a motion, Supervisor Baxter. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Supervisor Banks.
I got
Supervisor
some
Baxter.
discussion. In the future, and I've spoke to the mayor about this, could they work a little closer with Ralph and get these estimates a little more fine-tuned? They missed the mark on this.
Sure.
Is Tim around here?
I think he has stepped out, but we'll make sure that they're not that nobody benefits from them padding an estimate.
That's right.
Absolutely.
The idea would be for the estimates to be under, and then they can cover the rest. We've seen that in other municipalities in this county.
Yeah.
I think that may just be part of the growing pains is if you're gonna get money, generally, well, let's pad the estimate and get extra, but that's not how it works in this case.
Okay, thank you.
All right, got a motion on the floor. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Hey, Greg?
Morning again. 2 things. Item 48 is CMPDD is requesting nominations for their Aging Advisory Committee. The current members of that committee are D.I. Smith, and the lady from CMPDD said Mr. Tankersley. I assume she means Paul, but that may not be entirely accurate. Mr. Tankersley, as I was told. Those are the 2 that are currently there, so they're asking for nominations from this board for 2 new ones, the same ones, but obviously it's up to y'all.
We haven't talked to, no one's talked to either one of them, right?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
Didn't I hear you say once that they were suggesting a person over 60 that might be an African American?
The request, according to the letter, was both members over 60 as part of the Aging Advisory Committee, and there was one where they did request a minority.
Do you know?
I'll make the motion that we put Shirley Brown on there as the minority.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second on the floor, still in,
65.
still in,
60.
we're still in discussion. Sheila?
Okay, so, now I forgot my point. Who's on, who rotated off? Who's rotating off?
Both are, to the best of my understanding,
D.I. Smith and
both
Paul
D.I.
Tankersley.
Smith and Paul Tankersley.
President Paul Tankersley is Madison. Okay.
I would make a substitute motion then, and I hadn't talked with D.I., but feel comfortable he would want to stay on. You know,
I think, can we just ask him?
I would make a substitute motion to go ahead and appoint Shirley Brown and D.I.,
All right, I second that motion.
you know, at this point, and then,
I think we gotta check, but you guys do what you gotta do.
yeah, I think both of them would be, so. Other discussion? Have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right, item 49, this is just for public awareness. I don't think any action is necessary by this board. The Mississippi Public Service Commission is hosting a community forum regarding utility service and particularly their response to the June storms. That is September 12th at 6 p.m. at the Pine Lake Madison campus. I know Commissioner Bailey is obviously featured very prominently on the flyer and is a big part of this. My understanding is Entergy is on board as well. I think I saw it on their social media. So this is just a public awareness situation. If you would like to go out and discuss your utility service, September 12th, 6 p.m., Pine Lake, Madison.
Okay, thank you for that announcement.
All right.
Nassan?
Good morning.
Morning.
Item number 50 is the budget amendments and the interfund cash transfers.
Move.
Got a motion, Supervisor Banks, I'll second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Items 51 through 53 is the general claims docket and 2 payroll dockets.
Move.
Got a motion, Supervisor Banks, do I have a second? Supervisor Griffin? Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Item 54 is the approval and acknowledge and approve an actuary stated by Capital McDonald.
Do I have a motion?
Move.
Got a motion, Supervisor Banks, do I have a second? I'll second it. What is that?
It's to do our study for our OPEB report for our FY22 audit. It's a requirement.
Okay.
It's an actuary study for our OPEB report that's required for our annual audit. It's required.
Okay.
By GASB.
We got a motion, got a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Supervisor Baxter, would you handle 55 and maybe Mr. Lott?
All right.
And the last item is 55, is the approval of the Fleet Corps claim docket.
Have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Lott?
Nothing, Mr. President.
Nothing.
Sheriff?
Nothing, Mr. President.
All right, old business. New business. I do know we need to go into executive session, so.
Litigation items.
Discuss litigation.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to go into closed termination. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second with Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right. Also, we need a motion to go into executive session because of.
Motion.
Second.
Got a motion,
Second.
Supervisor Griffin, second Supervisor Baxter, and this is for what, Mike?
Litigation.
Litigation. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?